At my dad's retirement venue, my sister said, "You can just drop off the gift. This night is about Dad." My mom whispered, "And please, do not speak." I got a notification. $3,770 catering payment processed. I paused the card, pulled my authorization from the vendor, and declined final settlement. 2 hours later, my brother called. They shut it down. There's no food. I replied, there was no space for me. Then I booked a, "You can just drop off the gift. This night is about Dad," my sister Kendra said, brushing imaginary lint off her designer dress like I'd already overstayed my welcome. I was still standing in the lobby of the event hall, holding the carefully wrapped mahogany watch box I'd spent 2 weeks selecting and saving for. It wasn't cheap. Neither was the $3,770 catering bill I had just covered on my card that morning. Not that anyone had thanked me. "And please," my mom whispered, leaning in close with that tight, brittle smile she wore like a badge, "don't speak. Let Kendra and the family handle the speeches." Right then, I knew. This wasn't my family anymore. It was theirs. And I was just the guy they'd used to plug financial holes when the budget didn't stretch. My hand instinctively slipped into my pocket. A vibration. Notification. $3,770 catering payment processed. I stared at the screen, then looked around. Rows of white linen tables, silver cutlery glinting under rented chandeliers. Servers bustling around with shrimp platters. Guests already sipping wine. Dad was on stage, hugging Kendra like she was the only child he'd ever had. Me? I hadn't even been mentioned in the welcome remarks. So I tapped the screen. Pause card. Revoke vendor authorization. Decline final settlement. Done. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed again. Unknown caller. It was my brother Noah, the only one who hadn't blocked me when I stopped paying for his car insurance. "Dude, they shut it down. There's no food. What did you do?" I took a slow sip of my iced coffee, already seated at a quiet diner across town. "There was no space for me," I said. "So I made room somewhere else." I ended the call before he could respond. Then I ordered dessert. They say family is everything. That you do what you can, because blood is thicker and all that. I used to believe that too, until I became a walking ATM with no voice. My dad, Mark Ellison, had worked 40 years as a high school principal. A tough guy, never missed a day, always had something to say about discipline and duty. When he announced his retirement, the family went into full celebration mode. Venue bookings, speech drafts, catering quotes flying in. But there was one problem. No one had the money. Kendra, my older sister, the successful one in PR who never had less than a $500 haircut, had maxed out her cards. "I'm handling logistics," she said. "Money just isn't liquid right now." My brother Noah? He's the creative one. Graphic designer slash gig economy legend who lives in a loft downtown and once crowdfunded rent because his MacBook needed better vibes. My mom. She hadn't worked since 1998. Her job now was keeping the peace, or more accurately, keeping everyone comfortable, even if that meant I got buried. So guess who covered everything? Venue, $2,400. Catering deposit, $1,500. Decor, $600 on custom signs and floral arrangements. Emotional labor, priceless. All paid by me. Jason, the youngest. The one who works with computers, which in their heads means I'm some rich hacker living in a tech castle. In reality, I manage enterprise cybersecurity projects. Good pay, but I'm not printing money. Still, when Dad made a joke about my golden goose, I laughed with them. Because that's what I do. I laughed through the part where Kendra said I'd handle the finances. I laughed when Mom texted me a Venmo request labeled miscellaneous joy items. I even laughed when Noah sent me a PDF invoice for the slideshow he made, featuring himself in half the pictures. But it started to wear thin, especially when my name was omitted from the official invites. The invites I paid for. "We just went with immediate family," Kendra said. "I am immediate family," I said. "You know what I mean." No, I didn't. The final straw wasn't even the money. It was rehearsal night. I showed up early to help set up the room. Kendra was barking orders. Noah was showing the bartender how to make his signature sangria. I carried in crates of champagne, sweating through my button down. And no one spoke to me. Not Dad. Not Mom. Not even a nod. At one point, I overheard Kendra laughing with her friends near the stage. "My brother?" she said. "Oh, he's around. Don't worry." He'll vanish before the pictures. He's allergic to attention. They all laughed. It wasn't a joke. I had vanished. Or rather, they erased me. They loved what I gave, but not who I was. And then, a day before the event, I got the final invoice from the caterers. An unexpected $3,770 charged to my card without notice. When I texted Kendra about it, her response was just, "Oh yeah, we upgraded to the filet mignon. Hope that's cool." Cool. That's when I stopped being the good son. I called the caterer, revoked authorization, told them the charge was not approved. And then I booked a table for one at a rooftop brunch spot across the city, somewhere with real linen napkins and no passive-aggressive toasts. 2 hours into Dad's retirement party, I sat in the booth of a rooftop cafe, slowly sipping espresso and scrolling through the fallout. The event was collapsing in real time. No appetizers, no entrees, no desserts, no shrimp towers or steak trays or little canapes with edible flowers. Just chaos. Text after text lit up my phone. Kendra, Jason, what did you do? Mom, the food is gone. Everyone is starving. Please fix this. Noah, they're freaking out, man. People are leaving. Fix it now. But I didn't respond. Because for once, they could stew in the mess they made. Apparently, the caterers had arrived, unloaded the first few trays, and then got a call from their payment processor. My authorization had been revoked. Since the final balance was unpaid and disputed, they were legally barred from completing service. Policy. No exceptions. The servers packed up. The food left the venue. And 100 guests were left circling empty tables with champagne, but no sustenance. I didn't crash the event. I let it crash itself. But I did get a call. From Dad. At first, I ignored it. Then it rang again. And again. And again. Finally, I picked up. Jason, he said, voice low, controlled, like he was trying not to yell in front of guests. What is going on? I could hear murmurs, clinking glasses, awkward music in the background. I pulled my authorization, I said evenly. I never agreed to pay that final balance. You all made decisions without me. He exhaled, sharp. So you're sabotaging your own father's retirement? I almost laughed. My own father? I repeated. That's Rich. You mean the guy who didn't invite me to speak at his own event? The guy who let my sister treat me like a ghost? The guy who sat through rehearsal dinner and didn't say a single word to me? Jason, he hissed. This isn't about you. I stood up from the cafe table and walked to the railing. The city buzzed beneath me, golden in the late sunlight. It's never about me, I said quietly. Not when I pay for Christmas flights. Not when I cover Noah's rent. Not when I fund your property tax bill every April like clockwork. I'm just a tool. A wallet with legs. That's not fair, he snapped. We've always. No, I cut him off. You've always taken. And I always gave. Even when it hurt. But not today. He went silent. Then, people are leaving. It's humiliating. Can you at least come and explain? I laughed. You mean save you? Sorry. I already spent enough saving everyone else. Maybe Kendra can fix it. Or Noah can design a flyer explaining why there's no food. Jason, he said again, lower this time. Your mother is upset. That stopped me. For a second. But then I remembered her whispering, please don't speak. You should have thought about that before erasing me, I said. Tell her to enjoy the night. It's about Dad, remember? Then I hung up and blocked his number. 20 minutes later, the group chat exploded. Kendra sent a message with 7 exclamation points. Oh, you re-cut off. I hope you're happy. You ruined everything. Then Noah chimed in. We looked like fools. You didn't just skip it. You let it collapse. Good. I didn't reply, but I did post a photo. One of me at the rooftop table, holding a glass of white wine and smiling peacefully. The caption was simple. Sometimes you have to remove yourself from the table when respect is no longer being served. I hit post. And the comment section blew up. Old friends, former coworkers, even distant cousins, all chimed in. Needed this reminder. Good for you. Family doesn't mean sacrifice without appreciation. I was at that party. It was a disaster. You were right to walk away. By the time I paid my bill and left the restaurant, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Not with guilt, not with shame, but with validation. Because for the first time in years, I'd said no. And the sky didn't fall. They did. But it didn't end there. 2 days later, I got an email from the catering company's owner. Subject line, regarding disputed payment, Ellison event. I braced for some legalese or threats. Instead, it read, Jason, I just wanted to say thank you. I've been in this business 15 years. That was the first time someone had the guts to revoke payment after their family abused the contract behind their back. I overheard what your sister said about you during the planning phase. You didn't deserve that. Just letting you know, I refunded the deposit and flagged the account as ineligible for future bookings. We don't tolerate disrespect. Tamara, Eden Events. I stared at the screen, then smiled. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt free. You'd think after the retirement party imploded, they would finally reflect. Maybe apologize. Acknowledge me. Try to repair what they'd spent years breaking. They didn't. The next morning, my phone looked like it had survived a war. 17 missed calls. 5 from Mom. 7 from Kendra. 3 from Noah. 2 from Dad. And 1 particularly volcanic voicemail. Jason, you humiliated us. Humiliated me. That was my legacy celebration, and you disrupted your father's moment over some petty grudge. Don't come to the house. Don't call. You made your choice. This isn't your home anymore. That last line. This isn't your home anymore. It didn't hurt the way he wanted it to. What hurt was realizing it wasn't the first time they'd erased me. It was just the first time they said it out loud. I used to think if I just gave a little more, covered one more tuition payment, paid for one more emergency, agreed to one more favor, maybe they'd finally see me. I stopped thinking that. Instead, I saw a different truth. I wasn't family. I was finance, a source of money, not a person. So I made some changes. Blocked the family group chat, canceled the auto payments, took a week off work, booked a trip, called a therapist, and, for the first time in over a decade, slept 8 full hours without grinding my teeth. Then Kendra showed up. 2 weeks after the party, she was waiting outside my office building like a debt collector. Designer trench, sunglasses, rage simmering just below the surface. Jason, she barked, we need to talk. I kept walking. She followed. You destroyed everything. Dad won't even leave the house. Mom won't speak. You embarrassed all of us. I stopped, turned. I didn't destroy anything, I said. I just stopped paying for your illusion. She blinked. You don't get it, she said. We were a unit. We supported each other. It took too much from me. I corrected. There's a difference. You could have talked to us. Like you talked to me when you told me not to speak. When you told me to just drop off the gift like a delivery boy. Her jaw tensed. We didn't mean it like that. No, I said. You meant it exactly like that. She tried to guilt me. Dad was going to include you in the trust. The house. His will. I don't want his house, I said. I paid more into that house than either of you ever did. Then what do you want? She snapped. I smiled. Silence. I turned and walked away, leaving her in the lobby like a ghost who couldn't haunt me anymore. But the real shock came a month later. An email. From a law firm I didn't recognize. Subject, Mark Ellison Irrevocable Trust, confidential notice. I stared at the screen. It wasn't spam. Attached, a legal document. My name, $781,000. Trust funded by proceeds from the family home, sold before the party. Wait, he sold the house. Without telling anyone, I called the firm. Yes, the paralegal confirmed. Your father liquidated the property a month before his retirement. The funds were placed in a private, irrevocable trust for you. Why me? She paused. There's a letter. He asked that we send it to you directly. I received it minutes later. Typed, signed. Jason, I know I was never fair to you. I let your siblings dominate the narrative. I let them speak for all of us. But I always noticed what you did. Quietly. You kept this family afloat. You never demanded recognition. You just gave. I don't deserve forgiveness. But maybe you deserve freedom. This trust is yours. Use it to live, not to rescue anyone else. You don't owe us anything. You never did. Dad. I stared at that letter for over an hour. Then I cried. Not for the money, but because he finally saw me. Maybe not when I needed it most, but at all. That night, I opened a bottle of wine, alone, in my apartment, and toasted the first honest moment I'd ever received from him. It didn't make up for everything, but it was something. Kendra found out 2 weeks later. She emailed me, pretending to be diplomatic. Hi Jason, hope you're well. I was surprised to learn about the trust. I think Dad may have been confused with the legal distribution structure. Let's meet and discuss a fair way to redistribute. I replied with a single sentence. The money isn't confusing. Only your entitlement is. Blocked her. Noah called too. From a blocked number. I just wanted to say, he began, I left Mom's house. I've been staying with a friend. After everything. I get it now. And I'm sorry. I stayed silent. You were right, he said. About all of it. I let him finish. Then replied, I accept your apology. But I don't owe you access to me. And that was it. 3 days later, I booked a flight to Barcelona. Stayed a month. While walking the Gothic quarter at dusk, watching strangers play guitar under glowing street lamps, I realized something. For years, I thought I had to earn my place in my family. Now I knew. I had to unlearn them. They weren't home. They were a habit. And I was done. 6 months after the retirement party, I barely recognized my own life. Not because I was someone else, but because I'd finally stepped into who I had always been. Beneath the guilt, the obligation, the endless phone calls and quiet resentment. My days became simpler, lighter. My mornings began without dread. No texts demanding help. No passive-aggressive voicemails. No crisis dumped on my lap with a cheery, you're the responsible one, right? I drank my coffee hot. I sat in silence. I breathed. And for the first time in years, I felt like my life was mine. The trust Dad left me gave me financial peace. But more than that, his letter gave me permission, the one thing I'd been silently begging for since I was a kid. Permission to stop proving myself. Permission to stop bleeding for people who only noticed when the bleeding stopped. But that didn't mean everything was healed. There were moments I'd pick up my phone, half expecting to see a message from Mom or Noah. I didn't miss the manipulation, but I did miss what I wished our relationships could have been. Sometimes, I even found myself composing texts I'd never sent. I wish things were different. You hurt me more than I ever let on. But I'm still glad I walked away. Instead, I saved those thoughts in a private journal. Pages filled with quiet truths. Pages no one else would ever see. Because I wasn't writing to be heard anymore. I was writing to understand myself. One day, while decluttering, I came across a box filled with old birthday cards. Dozens of them. All from the past 10 years. Almost all of them from me, to them. Each card had a check inside. A generous message. A line about being here if you need me. There wasn't a single one from them to me. That's when I laughed. Not bitterly, but with clarity. I finally saw the pattern I'd been trapped in. I was always the giver. They were always the takers. And the moment I stopped giving, I became the villain. That was never love. That was dependency dressed up in family photos. And walking away, it didn't make me cruel. It made me whole. Later that week, I took Juniper, the rescue dog I'd adopted after the party, on a hike. She chased butterflies, barked at pine cones, and looked back at me every few minutes, just to make sure I was still there. She trusted me, not for what I gave her, but because I showed up. Consistently, quietly, fully. And I realized that's what I always wanted. Not applause, not money, not even forgiveness. Just someone who saw me and stayed. That same night, as I was making dinner, my phone buzzed. A name I hadn't seen in months. Noah. He didn't ask for money. He just sent a picture of a tiny apartment with the caption, not much. But I paid for it myself. I stared at it for a long time, then wrote back. Good. That's how it should be. No more, no less. I didn't unblock Mom. I didn't respond to Kendra's 10th apology letter, especially not the one with the veiled threat about what Dad would have wanted. Because I knew what Dad wanted. He told me himself. He wanted me free. And I was. A few months later, I used part of the trust to start something small but meaningful. A foundation offering emergency grants to low-income young adults. People who, like me, had been holding their families together with invisible threads. I named it the Anchor Fund. Because that's what I'd been. For too long. Now I was the lighthouse. And maybe one day, someone else drowning in guilt and obligation will find their way to shore because I lit the path. That's the legacy I want. Not a toast at a banquet I was told not to speak at. Not a plaque from a family that once erased me. Just this. Quiet peace. Real boundaries. And a life I'd built. For myself, by myself, without apology. The story didn't end when I walked away. Stories like these never really end. They shift. They quiet down. They reappear in unexpected ways. But most importantly, they change shape the moment you decide to stop playing your assigned role. 6 months after I started the Anchor Fund, I got a letter in the mail. Real paper. Handwritten. From Mom. Jason, I still don't understand why you did what you did. I know you think we mistreated you, but it never felt that way to us. You were the strong one. We leaned on you because we trusted you. I miss you. Love. Mom, I stared at that miss you for a while. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't accountability. But maybe, for her, it was progress. Still, I didn't respond. Because by then, I knew something important. Closure doesn't always come wrapped in mutual understanding. Sometimes, it comes when you realize you no longer need it. Kendra? She tried rebranding. New job. New image. She posted an inspirational LinkedIn article about boundaries and burnout. The irony was laughable. Then she sent me a DM. I've grown. I'm not the same person I was. I hope one day you can see that. I left it on scene. Because growth that demands recognition from the person you hurt isn't growth. It's PR. Noah, though, he stayed in touch. Slowly. Respectfully. He never asked for money again. He told me he started therapy. One day, he messaged, I found Dad's letter to you in Mom's drawer. I read it. I cried. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you. That one, I replied to. It's okay. I didn't stand up for me either. Not until it was too late. I'm glad you're learning. He asked if we could get lunch sometime. I told him, not yet, but maybe. And for the first time, maybe didn't feel like a delay. It felt like a door I'd choose when I was ready. As for Dad, he passed away 10 months after the party. Heart failure. No drama. No fanfare. Just a quiet ending to a loud man. I didn't attend the funeral. Not out of spite, but because he and I already had our final conversation. In that letter. That trust was his apology. That money was his confession. And his silence at the end was him finally stepping back so I could breathe. The Anchor Fund grew. I met people who reminded me of who I was 10 years ago. Overworked, underappreciated, buried under family expectations. I helped them pay for classes, leave toxic homes, take therapy. Every time someone said, I didn't think anyone saw me, I'd nod. Because I knew exactly what that felt like. And now, I had built something that didn't just heal me. It multiplied that healing. 1 year after the party, on the exact date, I booked a table for one. Same restaurant where Dad's retirement party was supposed to happen. I ordered the meal they never got to eat. Steak, potatoes, red wine. And when the check came, I smiled. Because I could pay. Not out of obligation. Not out of guilt. Just because I wanted to. And that small, quiet moment, was the most powerful closure of all. If this story has a lesson, it's this. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't confronting your family. It's leaving the stage before they hand you another script.